Alright, we're going to demonstrate end of row sequence. Today we're in a 290 Magnum tractor pulling a 1255 Case IH planter. And we're going to run through the process of recording an end of row sequence. So basically, to start with, just going to give you a little background. End of row sequence is just going to record everything that I do. So as I approach the headland, I've got my front wheel assist engaged, my diff lock is on, planter's in the ground, I'm in 9th gear, and we're going about 5.7 miles an hour. So as I approach the headland, I'm going to hit the record button. From this point on, it's going to record everything I do. So I downshift twice. As the planter comes into the headland, across the line, I begin lifting. I kick my diff lock off. Make the turn. Once I'm about halfway through the turn, I hit guidance engage. Drop the planter back in the ground. Hold and then float. Upshift. Once. Twice. Diff lock back on. And then I hit my record button to end that sequence. Okay, now that we've recorded a sequence, I'll just give you a little picture. We've got this end of row sequence is being performed on large tractor software, and so that gives us the option to select and monitor our sequence events through the Pro 700 display. So from the main screen, I've gone up here to electronic end of row, and we're in main right now, but I'm going to go to manager. Now that I've recorded the sequence, I'm going to go and I can select any previous sequence I've recorded. Let's say I'm pulling a tillage tool. I can record a sequence for tillage and then maybe come back for the planter and record a different sequence. And I can name the sequences anything I want. I can edit the name and call this tillage sequence if I'd like. Or I can call this one planter. But I'm going to use this sequence number 2. It's one I've recorded, so I'm going to download this sequence. Downloading the sequence will replace the current sequence on the controller. Do you wish to continue? Yes. So now, sequence successfully downloaded. Check hitch configuration before commencing playback. Okay, this particular sequence we did not use the hitch, so but here we have a list of each step of the sequence that we performed, and it recorded exactly what we did. So now that we've downloaded the sequence, we're going to try the playback feature as we go through the field and see how it So underneath our right hand armrest, we were using the record button during our sequence creation, and now we have a couple of different options here. We either have the playback auto or playback manual button. So we can either A, hit auto, and that's the one I like. It's going to automatically cycle through each of these sequences as I approach the headland, and if my timing's correct, I might have to do this a couple of times. One thing I like to do is watch the front of my tires, and when that crosses the headland, that's when I hit my play button. So I've got a playback button here underneath the lever, the right hand throttle, and when I hit that, it's going to start running through all of these sequences. Now if I hit manual playback, every time I tap my play button, it's going to sequence through the next step of the cycle. So I can do that, but I'm kind of partial to the auto because it does everything for you, and you only have to tap this button once. Okay, so here we're going to play back our sequence. It's across the headland. I hit my button, downshifts once, twice. I do have to manually hit the brake to disengage my diff lock. As the planter starts to lift, I put a finger in the spoke of the wheel. I bring the tractor halfway around, and once I'm lined up with my next pass, I let go of the wheel. Guidance engages. I do have to have my finger out of the wheel. Guidance engages. The next step, the planter starts to drop. It's going to go into float next. You can watch these sequences play back. Now it's upshifting once, twice, and it's kicking my diff lock back on. That is end of row sequence.